You're watching BNN Bloomberg. I'm John Ehrlichman. Well, in the last few weeks, we have seen millions of Canadians take advantage of the government aid being provided to those who have lost their jobs. The well-known CERB program, which was rolled out relatively quickly, has now seen more than 14 million applications processed, more than $38 billion paid out. Now, remember, this program was rolled out using essentially an online portal through the Canada Revenue Agency, the CRA. Frank Vermaten of the CRA, the Assistant Commissioner, played a key role in getting that rollout done, and he joins us now. Thanks very much for joining us, Frank. Why don't you start by talking to us a little bit about behind the scenes, how quickly this was able to come together?
Yeah, good morning, John. Certainly. So we were approached the middle of March by the Department of Finance. Clearly what they saw was the EI program being overwhelmed with applicants, and they wanted something quickly. Could we stand up a program to get money to Canadians as absolutely fast as possible? And so that's what we did. Started in the middle of March, and a couple of weeks later, by April 6th, we were up and running, and the applications were coming in.
And give us a sense on what has stood out to you through the process, the kind of feedback you've gotten on people who were using the system, and the difference between having a system that works and a system that doesn't work.
Well, absolutely. I think we've been very happy with the performance of the system. You know, we're at the CRA, we're used to dealing with high volumes. We have systems designed for electronic filing of returns. So we had a great system in place. We were able to put this system and utilize much of what we are already using. Like you said, the My Account portal. So that allowed people to apply very quickly, and we are able to get payments out within 2 days. So I think we could handle the volume, and we were able to deliver pretty quickly in terms of the payments.
Throughout this pandemic, the government's always been very clear that they want to ensure that people have money in their hands to keep a roof over their head, to get out and buy groceries. And so through programs like the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, clearly there's been this way, and using the CRA portal to get the money into the hands quickly. What about some of the feedback that we hear sometimes on the concerns about whether everybody who's tapping into this program and doing so very quickly online should be tapping into this program? How do you address concerns around things like fraud?
Yeah, certainly, and we're definitely aware of that, aware of what's been said in the media. You know, it's something we're very cognizant of, and certainly we do front-end validations, automated front-end validations to catch some of that fraud. On top of that, we have pretty sophisticated systems where we're going to be comparing people's income come next February. We'll compare their incomes with the CERB applications they made to make sure that we have it right. And in cases where people were earning income above the $1,000 threshold and collecting the CERB at the same time, we're going to ask them to pay it back.
Frank, the CRA has also played a key role, obviously, in the rollout of the wage subsidy program. Can you compare and maybe contrast the rollout of CERB and the wage subsidy program?
Yeah, certainly. In some sense, there's a lot of similarities. The government came to us in early April, said, we've got to roll out a big wage subsidy here, and how soon can you stand that up? Well, we managed to get that out basically 2 weeks after the passing of the legislation. So that part went very smoothly. The rollout went very smoothly, but it's a little bit more of a sophisticated system. We have to do a lot of upfront checks. Obviously, there's companies making very large claims, and we've got to make sure there's no fraud. We've got to make sure that they're entitled to those amounts. So a little bit more sophisticated, but in the end, I think we've got a system that also works very quickly and is able to get the money to companies very, very, very quickly.
What goes into that process, that fraud check process, that's maybe a little bit more elaborate?
Well, first of all, at the front end, you need to have an eligible business number, for example, to be able to actually get into the system. Then once you're in the system, we do lots of checks. Give you one, for example. We compare the claim to previous payrolls. So imagine an applicant put in an application to get $1 million wage subsidy, but we looked at their wages last year and they were only $500,000 for the entire year. Then we know something's wrong, and what we do then is we would kick that to a manual review, call the company, and there's probably two possibilities. One is they're defrauding us, but another one might be that they've gone through a tremendous growth cycle and now have hired more people and have a larger payroll to cover. So we have processes in place, both automated and manual, to ensure that the right people are getting the money.
Frank, given the ability to do these quick rollouts, whether it's the CERB program, whether it's the wage subsidy program, what else are you thinking about, and what else might you be asked by the federal government to assist with when it comes to rolling out any different programs associated with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that to policymakers, but certainly we stand ready. If I just look at the last week or so, we rolled out the CERB, the Emergency Fund for Students. So we opened the doors on that on Friday. We've now increased the wage subsidy, the duration of that. Certainly we've done the GST credit increase, Canada Child Benefit. So we're ready to do more. It's a challenging time, but at the same time, I think we're pretty proud of what we're doing here at the CRA, the staff. We're all excited to try to help Canadians, at a really difficult time.
Well, and we should probably point out, I'm joining you from my home. Some of your staff are obviously working on this rollout from unusual locations. That's fair to say?
Absolutely. To tell you the truth, the vast majority of our employees were working on site in one of our tax centers or one of our headquarter buildings. We had to do a very quick transition to get people to work virtually. I don't think it's any different than many of the business in the private sector, but I think people responded. For example, I look at our call centers. We have about 3,500 people there. Within a couple of days, we took those 3,500 people and moved them to a virtual setting, and it's worked really well.
Frank, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate the backstory. That's Frank Vermaeten, the Assistant Commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency, joining us.